nation, still part of the United Kingdom, really. And we've got this World War I, World War II memorial. It's very beautiful, but it's also very occultic. And just as it is in London and all over the world where you have Commonwealth nations, you've got the goddess, actually two goddesses, with the torch up there and then the wreath of victory over the victorious soldiers marching through a triumphant arch. Every facet of this is occultic. There is massive symbolism here. You have a star. You have the two twin pillars with obelisk points pointing downwards to the east. This, yeah, this entire thing is just unbelievably occultic. Every facet of the layout. And again, most people who walk past this have no idea what they're even looking at. See, people call Texas the Lone Star State, and that's because of the huge Masonic underpinnings. And this is a memorial to fallen state and county and city police officers. And it's a star with one of their favorite symbols, the two obelisks, or the two pillars, with obelisk points on their tips in the eastern tip of the star, which itself then makes a pyramid. Come around here, I'll show you. This is a religious monument for the governmental caste that rules America. This is a monument to their enforcers. They're fallen soldiers who have enforced domination on the people. See, from the cutoff point here, it's a black pyramid facing the east with this incredibly powerful Masonic symbol of the two obelisks or the two pillars. It's amazing. And they love to have their religious icons be associated with memorials. They always have memorials at these religious sites, especially to female deities, to goddesses, just encircled with war memorials and police memorials for the fallen. All over London, you will have huge temples and statues built openly to goddesses, and it will double as a monument to a queen. And then in front of it will be a huge memorial to hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands dead. And it's the same everywhere, and it is an offering to the deity. Because just as the Aztecs had ritual sacrifice by the tens of thousands a year in many cases, in the West we have our own way of ritual killing, but it's done in war. The Romans did it in war, but they also did it more stylized in the arena. The reason that we know this is a pentagram and not just a star, which is occultic enough and associated with magic in the Lone Star State, is because of how it's placed. The star is facing up because of the letters: honor, bravery, dedication, service. At the bottom, that's how the words are actuated, so that you're supposed to look at it from the east, or the bottom of the pentagram, the most powerful point on the pentagram. And then again, the most powerful point of the pentagram, pointing down for negative energy, has a black pyramid built into itself, and then out of that, three-dimensional, okay? Out of that we see the sacred geometry with the two black obelisks thrusting upward. This is absolutely amazing. I mean, this is just symbolism within symbolism within symbolism. This is rings within rings, wheels within wheels, compartmentalization. Not only is it laid out flat before us, it's rising up into the sky. This whole thing is just, this is one of the most occultic New World Order Illuminati markers I've ever seen in my life. One of the biggest problems I have with the whole Masonic system, whether you love them or hate them, is that it's admitted that in many towns in the U.S., If you're not a Mason, you're not getting a job as a police officer. You're not going to get any business as a lawyer, as a printer. And it's really bad in England. It's been in the BBC. It's been all over their news that you basically can't become a barrister unless you're a Mason. You can't become a judge for sure unless you're a Mason. And then it's a good old boy network, and that Masons are unable to really get in trouble in that political system. Well, guess what? I know about that personally. My dad's great uncle, when my dad was growing up in East Texas, I lived next door to him. And he'd run away when he was like 12 years old and gone away and been a sailor on steamships, all this stuff. He came back during Prohibition. And when liquor was illegal, he's making a bunch of money in Houston running these bars. And some guys tried to basically take his money once, and he shot 2 of them and killed them. And when he went in before the judge, all he did was flash his Masonic hand sign of a Mason in distress, and the judge said, case dismissed. No debating it, no nothing. And so, and in that case, he was in distress. As he told my dad the story, he was some other criminals. Criminals like to rob criminals. And I don't know how criminal he was. It was Prohibition. People wanted to drink. It's a stupid law, but the point is there was criminals involved, and they tried to knock him over with a big bag of money. And old Uncle Houston, I guess young Uncle Houston at the time, pulled out his gun and blasted both of them. And he went in there, and he was going to be going down because he did kill these people. And the whole thing was criminal, what was going on. And he gave the Mason in distress sign, and the judge said dismissed. The founding fathers of this country, about 60% of them were Masons. But again, they weren't bad people. They were compartmentalized. Before he died, the then retired President George Washington wrote letters saying there's an evil force out of France taking over Masonry. It's turning it against good institutions. It's evil. It's black, is what he called it. So we know there's also been internal struggles within it, but it's certainly from its start, from its foundations, is occultic. It predates Christianity. And you walk into the Capitol and it says, to our goddess. And there's a little decoration there telling you this is dedicated to the goddess. This is the goddess Diana. I remember when I was a little kid, I got a tour here, and they said, well, and the goddess is Diana. I didn't know what that meant. So it's admitted this is a temple to Diana. And then it's got all these other religious icons and iconography to other deities. Lord knows what this is, a black pentagram. Pretty serious business, because they also worship the negative. They worship both sides. And there's 2 sides to each of those 2 sides. There's a positive and a negative to the male, a positive and negative to the female. And so...
So do you think they're not Christians? All the Republicans, they're not actually Christians?
Oh, no, they're certainly not Christians. Most of your top Republicans and Democrats are way above Masonry. They've gone from being porch Masons to really being part of the power structure. And that's the thing. You've got all these good Baptists here in Austin, Texas, and they wouldn't be involved in anything evil. And a lot of them are Masons, and they're in there doing these weird rituals, and it's all about brotherhood and God, and the G stands for God. But later you find out what God that is, and you find out that it's really Lucifer, and Lucifer's really the good guy, and Jesus is really the bad guy. And top Masons like Albert Pike, the Supreme Grand Master, the head Mason in the U.S., wrote that. Okay, so once you get up above into those higher levels, you find out all this, and it's really serious. So you've got all these Christians that live here in Texas, Christians that live in Russia, Christians that live all over the place, and all around them are these occultic temples, and they don't even hide it. They tell you this is a temple to a goddess. This is, for the fallen police officers, and it's a black pentagram with an obelisk sticking up out of the top of it. There are thousands of different cults in India, different weird religious groups. There's the same thing here in America, because there were thousands of cults before Christianity came. So they all went underground, and then they used the compartmentalized nature of their organizations to exert power on the population. But at the end of the day, for all the differences in the little cults, because people always split off to make their own little groups, they have the basic same tenets. The horned god, the male, the big-breasted goddess. This is what they worship. And it's all really just about tribal groups getting together. Well, George Bush Sr. doesn't come to his son and say, son, we're Satanists. We'd like you to join us. No, he puts him in clubs with other elites' children who are normally a few years older, where they're impressionable to people that are older than them, and then they encourage them and bring them into it slowly. And by the time you're 19, 20 years old at Skull and Bones at Yale, you're doing mock human sacrifices, which have been caught on video by ABC News, mock slitting, worshiping Satan, screaming, yelling, eating off Hitler's silverware, Nazi flags, stolen bones, sleeping in coffins with bones, telling people your innermost secrets, a lot of homosexual activity. This is what they do. This is the bonding experience. So then a few decades later, when their children are governors, they can come to Bohemian Grove and not think it's any big deal. That's how they introduce their children into it, is with peer pressure. The elite's very smart.